when you're moving through life and you have a plan or a dream and it shatters, someone dies or a relationship breaks apart, or you have a terrible upset in your career, or you become ill in some unexpected way, then everything around you falls apart and you plunge into a chaotic underworld.
The belly of the whale.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes, exactly that. And then maybe you stay there, because it isn't necessarily the case that people get out. People die, people are in despair permanently, but frequently something tragic and terrible befalls you and you fall apart and you learn something profound as a consequence, and you put yourself back together, and when you come back out, you're more than you were when you went in. And that's happening at a small scale. Every time you learn something, if you ever really learn something, it's usually painful. It usually means that you have to recognize that you're wrong in some important way. You have to let that part of you that's wrong die. And then you have to let a new part of you. Okay, so the self.
This dude's so daggone smart, man. I swear, every single time I check him out, he just reaffirms that what I'm just learning in my 40. Well, I just now turned 44. Speaking of, I want y'all to see a picture that my son's, one of my son's good friends made for me, for my birthday, for my 44th birthday. The guy is so daggone dope. Let me show y'all right quick. Hold on one second. Yeah, he made that for me. He used a picture of me and he turned it into a huge painting for me to hang up. And yeah, that was supposed to be me with the abs and everything. I don't have abs like that, but I do have a couple of abs because I'm skinny. And when you're skinny, your abs are going to show anyway. Once you eat a sandwich, them abs disappear, Jack. Okay.
Let that part of you that's wrong die. And then you have to let a new part of you. Okay, so the self, imagine that you undergo a series of transformations in your life. There are collapses into the chaotic underworld, and then mini resurrections. That happens continually, and that's what molds your character.
Yes.
The self is this thing that manages the transformations that manages all those transformations. So you could say, here's another way of thinking about it. You could identify with what you understand. That's what ideologues do. You could identify with what you don't understand, and that's what sort of seekers after truth identify with. Or you could identify with the process of moving between those states. Sometimes you know what you're doing, you know where you are, you're in control, and you can become arrogant and identify with that, and then become too static about it, right? Or you can be in despair and everything is chaotic, and you can identify with that, in which case you're nihilistic. Or you can view yourself as the thing that moves across the transformations. And that's the right way to conceptualize yourself, is you're the thing that maintains constancy across transformations.
One imagines that your experience with the controversies around the linguistics and legislation in Canada must have felt like one of those plunges into the depths on some level, would you say? Did you feel a sense of personal tragedy and fear and a concern about consequence, or that there may be no way back, that it could represent a kind of death? Or did it indeed represent a kind of death for you, for one for which you are subsequently grateful?
All right, Russell Brand, I see you, bruh. Letting them know, look, I'm an intellect too. Let me ask you an intellectual question right quick from the top of the dome, and it's going to blow your mind, Jordan Peterson. Then he sat back like, yeah, what? Answer that. You already know Dr. Jordan Peterson going to crush it, but that was a great question.
Well, I would say for the first 4 months, when the political scandal broke, it was very unsettling for a variety of reasons. The first was that my occupation as a clinical psychologist and as a professor was definitely in doubt. I mean, the university sent me 2 warning letters, and that's a standard HR procedure. Usually you get 3, right? The third warning is stop or their consequences won't be good. If you work in human resources, you have to, especially if you're going to go after someone with tenure, you have to document their misbehavior. You have to provide them with warnings. You have to tell them how they could get back on the right track. And then if you have documented refusal to comply with the warnings, then they have grounds for dismissal.
Yeah, something like my channel and the warnings that I've been receiving. Yeah. For stuff I really don't even think I did anything for, but you know what I mean? I'm going to accept responsibility. I'm going to take accountability, you know what I mean? Because Dr. Peterson is teaching me that, you know what I mean? He did something that was clearly against whatever rules that the university had, and they started the process of, yeah, we about to document this stuff and possibly get rid of you if you keep it up. And I'm sure it was probably silly reasons why they did what they did, but it was reasons nonetheless.
If you have documented refusal to comply with the warnings, then they have grounds for dismissal. So we're very worried about
You were
that.
close. You were close to to some kind of personal or professional annihilation or certainly damage. Now, what, like, for people, just in case on the off chance that there are people that are unaware of the details, I'll say it as I understand it, and then you can tell me how I've got it wrong. The government changed the law saying that there are neutral nouns that mandatorily would be applied to people identified as transgender. You said that is an imposition on freedom of speech, whilst I would make a decision whether or not I would. If I was meeting a transgender person, I would talk to them how they wanted to be talked to. The fact that you're making it law is an impediment on the freedom of speech, and then it kicked off.
Yeah, that's a good summary of it. Yeah, I would say.
And then they held him in contempt for that. They held him accountable for no. All he's saying is, whoa. Nah, you're not going to make it a law. You're not going to make me do it. Now, I will show people the respect that they earn, and I will call people what they ask me to call them. But you're not going to put it in as a law and force me to do anything. That's because that infringes on my rights. So how does that work? In order for somebody else to have their rights, it has to infringe upon mine. That makes absolutely no sense to me. So I'm not doing that. And you know what? I'm appreciating that he took that stance.
I mean, my sense, there were two things I objected to. One was that the government, for the first time in the history of Canada, and really in a move that was unprecedented in English common law, under English common law, actually mandated the content of voluntary speech. And I thought, I don't care what your excuse is for doing that. That's no-go zone as far as I'm concerned. That's not happening.
Even though, right, this is what it seems to me like, sort of, help me to understand this, right? Because what I'm always interested in, I think, is power and where power is.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I subsequently looked at what your views are towards, like, sort of post-structuralist and the alt-left. And, like, a lot of things, I think, yeah, you're right. That you know, I agree with that. But what the reason I think that the sort of the controversy had fuel on both sides, the reason it had an engine on the other side, is because it seems that, and indeed having watched other interviews and the objections that other interviewers have presented to you, it seems to me that a transgender person is in a position of vulnerability. But you're saying this is not about transgender. This is about language and it's about oppression. That's what you're saying.
Well, that was my claim, is that this wasn't about transgenderism at all. And I would
about
say,
which you've got no strong view, I'm guessing, or
I don't have the sort of strong view that I would think I was sufficiently qualified to make political statements about.
yeah, like
It's very
Chappelle
complicated.
goes,
mean,
I don't
mean,
understand it, but it's not my.
Well, I basically look at the research, you know, and I mean, the research for transgendered kids is quite clear, is that most of them desist by the time they're 18. You know, and I'm basically guided by.
Where's
because
this
I'm
in
a
like
social
Scandinavia
scientist.
where they check that stuff out?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, people have criticized that research, like all research, but it's the best research that's been done on the topic. But the other problem was with the legislation was that I felt that it was an attempt by the radical left to gain the linguistic territory and to define the terms of the debate. You know, and I thought that was very dangerous. So I was objecting to that as well.
I feel you. Now, the thing that I'm interested in here, Jordan, is I don't feel like the radical left is a very powerful group? Am I being naive here? I mean, possibly in the world of academia, particularly, like, I feel like they are sort of representative of a coalition built around identity politics, issues that would seem particularly important to people. Like, my general view is, if you identify something, cool, no problem, it's none of my business. That's basically my opinion. I'll call you what you want me to call you. I'm happy that you're speaking to me. But do you see a sort of the sort of extreme left or as a powerful organisation, like,
certainly in the universities.
So what they can get what done? They could, for example, they could get that legislation passed.
Yes, that. Well, and I think the situation is different in the U.S. than it is in other countries. I think the political situation in the U.S. is actually more balanced than it is in most Western countries, because I would say the left, the radical left, has a pretty decent hold on a number of institutions, and first and foremost of those would be the universities. But then the conservatives, aren't without power in the United States, because they occupy most of the elected positions now. But it's not the case in Canada.
You don't want to be identified with any of those groups, am I right? Like, you wouldn't say that you're a person that's on the right or the left or conservative, or really. I noticed you didn't say whether or not you believed in God.
Well, my political views are complicated because I'm temperamentally liberal, because I'm high in openness, which is a creativity dimension, and people who are high in openness tend to be liberal because they like free-flowing information, and they like what would you say, fluid boundaries, because information can move back and forth across the boundaries.
How amazing.
I like that. And information can move back and forth. And then, but see, some people do try to hold you to account for the information that you're trying to accept. Like, because then they'll try to give you some information, and it's like, oh, what, my information that I'm giving you is not good enough? Why won't you accept my information? Because your information is without solutions. It's just full of complaints, bruh. Do you have any solutions within that information? Or something that's going to move us forward? But yeah, I'm enjoying this conversation right here.
Fluid boundaries, because information can move back and forth across the boundaries.
How amazing.
So temperamentally, I like that.
Ideologically, you reject these taxonomies, and you identify basically on the basis of research, like empiricism in a sense. You could say, like, I'm an open-minded type.
And just so y'all know, I'm trying to find the right way to sit in this new chair I have. A company by the name of eWin Racing. They sent me a new chair, and a gaming chair, since I'm always at the computer doing these videos. And so shout out to them for doing that. But I'm just sitting here trying to figure out how to get cozy in it. You know what I mean? Get my back in it, get my neck. You know what I mean? If I want to use this neck pillow that's right behind it, like, am I supposed to use the neck pillow? Should I sit back? I know Jordan Peterson says, have better posture. Now, that's rule number 1. I'm a lobster now. But I feel kind of weird because I don't usually sit like this. But I feel comfortable sitting like this. Does that make sense? I mean, I only wanted to point that out there because I'm sure y'all saw me fidgeting a little bit. And I didn't want y'all thinking that, that anything was weird. I was just trying to find the right way to sit in my chair.
Person. This language is clinical psychology. So your faith is clinical psychology.
It's research. I've done a fair bit of research in my lab on the temperamental predictors of political predisposition, and we can predict what parties people are going to align themselves with by studying their personality. So liberal left types are high in a trait called openness, and open people, you're a very open person. And you can tell because you think laterally, you have an idea, and then it reminds you of a whole bunch of other ideas. And so you'll move laterally across ideas. And a more conservative person, they'll stay within the category. And so your conversational style is marked by divergences. And that's actually called divergent thinking. It's a hallmark of creativity.
Is it good?
Well, it's good if you want to be creative. The problem with, there's a price for everything, hey? The price for creativity.
Russell Brand said, is it good? Or are you saying that I'm an imbecile and I need to fix the way that I think? Russell Brand shot, bro. He said, oh, okay, I hear you calling me a divergent thinker, and I don't know what divergent thinking is. So you put me up on game right now, Dr. Peterson, but is it good? Because if it's not, we can move these daggone chairs and stuff out the way, and we can fist the cup, Jack, because you're not going to sit on my show and tell me that I'm not a good thinker, that I don't be thinking good.
If you want to be creative. The problem with, there's a price for everything, hey? The price for creativity is that it's hard to catalyze an identity because you're interested in everything. That's the first thing. And your interest will flit from one thing to another. So one of the problems that creative people have, well, they have two. One is they have a hard time establishing an identity. And the second is they have a hard time monetizing their creativity. It's very difficult to be a creative person and make money.
I love that. Man. Jordan Peterson is a smart dude, man. It's very difficult because you all creatives have such great ideas. That's why the world is so innovative. Everything's not all about science. Sometimes it's about your just being creative. But how can we monetize this? Sometimes they don't want to be in a society where they have to go clock in and clock out and all that other stuff because their minds are all over the place with their own, creative thoughts. And but they want to monetize it. Dang it. Okay. All right. This is good. I should be taking notes. I guess my video is my notes. Okay.
Is they have a hard time monetizing their creativity. It's very difficult to be a creative person and make money. You can make money for other people, but usually you're dead by then, so it's not very helpful for you.
Jordan, both of those problems are as a result of external structures, the imposition of external structures on the individual, i.e. make money. That's a problem of capitalism and commerce more broadly. And the other one of identity, similarly. So is there a sort of a peculiar contradiction in around identity in that, like, it seems to me on one level that you reject taxonomies. So you're saying that these systems, e.g. if you say women are being paid less money, your argument would be, well, hold on a minute, there are other factors other than gender here. I don't agree with the data.
Argument. It's a funny thing because the intersectional feminists always claim that you should take other factors into account, right? Woman, man isn't enough. White, black isn't enough. Well, I say, well, there's a pay gap between men and women, but it's not only due to gender. It's due to all sorts of things, and you have to take them into account. So it's really an intersectional argument. So it's quite funny that I get hell for it.
It's an intersectional argument. So do you feel then, because what I sense is happening, like trying to understand where like our worldviews would align and where potentially there would be opposition between you and I. Well, I'm trying, because it seems to me, looking at your work, it's like, oh, I don't agree with the way that this information is being compiled. I don't agree with the assumptions that you're trying to saddle that piece of data with. It seems to me that it's about critical thinking, a very post-structuralist idea, But
Russell Brand is a good listener. That's what makes him a great communicator. That's something that I like. And that's another reason why I'm checking these guys out in their conversations, because I'm trying to learn how to listen. Because when I listen better, then I understand the person that I'm reviewing a lot more. And then I learn a lot better because of it. If that makes any sense.
Seems to me that it's about critical thinking, a very post-structuralist idea, But also, what I have noticed is that many of your theories seem to be subsequently alloyed to some unpleasant ideas around sort of tradition, conservatism, oppression, even. How do you feel about that? Because, it would be well easy for you to, I think you have said, I don't care about whether people are transgender or not. I just don't want no oppressive laws around language. But it would also be easy for you to say, I don't think there's any, I've heard you say on the news, fairness. But it does seem that there is some mischief somehow in you around the issues such as gender inequality.
Well, there's probably lots of mischief in me around all sorts of things. But I think that mostly I look at the political landscape from the perspective of an informed, biologically oriented social scientist. And so when people lay out their particular theories, they don't sound outdated to me.
Nice. That was good. I really enjoyed that. And I plan on going back and reviewing it because I'm certain I missed a few things. Just watching people having a conversation. Sometimes I don't try to overthink anything. I think I miss more when I try to overthink things. One thing I don't want to give y'all is a false impression that I'm smarter than I am, that my IQ is higher than it actually is. And I don't want anybody to assume that I'm less intelligent than I actually am either. All I'm doing is searching for truth in a way that I can possibly receive it. And people who can speak it plainly enough to me for me to understand it, I'm rolling with it, especially if what they're saying makes sense, adds impact to the world, and is positively adding toward my life as well. So per usual, I want to hear what y'all got to say about this in the comments below. If you have yet to hit that subscribe button, please make sure you do so on your way out the door. Once again, guys, I'm Van, and now we are all the LFR family, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video, hopefully inside the Patreon as well. Y'all have been amazing. Love y'all. Bye. I just received my new wallet from EKSTER, and the packaging was so nice, I figured it'd go perfectly with a glass of wine. And when you push this button, all your cards pop out. Dope. This must be the tracking device.
Oh, where's my wallet? Where's my wallet?
And with one single stroke of a button, you can find your wallet anywhere in the world, even couch cushions. If you want one, go to the link below.